And welcome to the Friday Football Show on Pittsburgh Sports Live. I'm Alan Saunders. This week we're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, their win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and a drama-free, or at least so far, a week leading up to the Steelers and Ravens on Sunday Night Football. We're also going to talk Pitt Panthers and their difficult visit to Central Florida this Saturday. I'll be down in Orlando for that one. Going to touch a little bit on the Dukes, who are off this week, a little bit of high school football. Should be a jam-packed show. Let's get into it with what went wrong and what went right on episode 3 last week. As I kind of like to do, I like to call myself out, I suppose, on what I got right and what I got wrong. Last week, I thought Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans were not particularly compelling matchup problems for the Steelers, especially given the return of Joe Hayden at cornerback. And I feel pretty justified with that prediction. I mean, Artie Burns did get beat for a touchdown. Mike Evans made a fantastic play in the back of the end zone. But I feel like in general, the Steelers defense kept the Tampa Bay offense in check. They got pressure, and they made big plays. Turnovers, sacks, negative plays are such a big part of the game at that level. And I feel like the Steelers defense really did a far better job. What we learned about the Steelers defense is that when they have a healthy Joe Hayden, they can play against elite wide receivers. They can play against quarterbacks that are playing really well, like Ryan Fitzpatrick had been. What we still don't know about the Steelers defense is how the middle of that defense can hold up against those schemes that put pressure on it. Evans and Jackson are perimeter players. If a player gets burnt on the perimeter like Burns did, it can hurt you, but it's not a systematic thing that you can go to over and over again. If Tampa lined up Evans on Burns all night long, he's not going to be open all night long, maybe occasionally, but it's not a schematic win. It's just man versus man personnel. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. What we saw 2 weeks ago with the Kansas City Chiefs were schematic wins, where the Steelers were out of their coverage. They were missing assignments. They were unable to physically match up, whether it was a linebacker on Travis Kelce or a linebacker on Sammy Watkins. The Tampa offense didn't have the pieces to exploit the Steelers defense the same way Kansas City did. So that's still sort of a to be determined going forward. When we talk about the Steelers game against the Ravens this week, though, you'll see I don't think the Ravens have the pieces to really exploit the Steelers defense either. Next thing I want to talk about is I thought last week the Dukes could give Hawaii a run, and they did. I was pleasantly surprised by that game. I thought Duquesne really showed what they're all about as far as being an FCS team that hung with an FBS team in a difficult environment, 6-hour time difference, all that travel that they're not used to. I mean, Duquesne's farthest trip in conference is, I think, Rhode Island. Rhode Island isn't in their conference, but Bryant is in Rhode Island and is in the NEC. Tough trip, no expectations, just kind of go out there and play football. I thought they looked really well, and I think they put themselves in very, very good position to be one of the best teams in the NEC this year. Outside of that season opening loss at UMass, they played a challenging non-conference schedule and performed pretty well in it. So I think the Dukes have to feel pretty good about that, and I feel pretty good about saying that a week ago. I thought that for the other college football team in town, North Carolina should be a game that Pitt should win. And, of course, the Panthers didn't. They lost 38-35 down in Chapel Hill. And I'm gonna ding myself there, a little bit of a negative, but I'm still not sure about whether that's a game Pitt should win. Pitt head coach Pat Narduzzi said at his press conference on Monday, they did some things that were uncharacteristic of Pitt football. And maybe he's right, but maybe also 4 games into the season, you are who you are. When does it start to become characteristic? Because they did a lot of the same things against North Carolina that they did against Penn State when it came to missed assignments, sloppy tackling, penalties, poor special teams play. It's really hard to evaluate the Panthers because so much of the way they've lost, the 2 games they've lost, has been self-inflicted. I went on a podcast from the Central Florida side of things leading up to this week, and they asked me, how's this game going to go? And I told them, honestly, I don't know. Pitt has the talent to play with Central Florida to give them a very good game. They also have the ability to lose this game by 60, as they've shown in week 2 and week 4. So sort of just like the Steelers, we've learned some things about the Panthers, but I feel like we still have a lot to learn going forward. And the biggest thing that I feel like I was right about, and the thing that we're going to use to springboard right into the first segment of the show today, drama comes with losing. After the Steelers lost in week 2 to the Kansas City Chiefs, they broke the record for team drama. Whatever it was, they crushed it. Every Le'Veon Bell in a jet ski, Ben and Stormy Daniels' book, AB once traded, he's not at practice, then he doesn't want traded. All of that drama only happens when the team fails to meet its expectations. That's it. That's the bottom line. Teams that meet their expectations don't have that drama. And people want to place a causal relationship on, oh, Tomlin's lost the locker room. These guys don't care about winning. They only care about themselves. It's just not there. The causal relationship is the other way. Losing brings out all those bad feelings, brings out all that bad news. Nobody wants to go digging for the bad story after a Steelers win, because that's not the story anybody wants to read. And that's not a shot at my colleagues that cover the Steelers. That's just the way things go. Somebody gets mad about the game lost that was lost, and then they start talking to someone that they may not have started talking to otherwise. They start saying things that they wouldn't say otherwise. They start responding to tweets that they wouldn't otherwise respond to. Losing causes drama. Drama doesn't cause losing. And as you've seen after a win on Monday Night Football, that was a close game. That was certainly far from a perfectly played football game from the Steelers' standpoint. The drama meter has fallen flat down to 0. Nothing going on the South Side this week. Just guys showing up, doing their job, practicing, preparing for another week of football because they won, because they met the expectation, which was to win that game. They'll deal with the individual issues. Artie Burns getting beat, potentially having to replace Mike Hilton as a slot corner. The things that they deal with on a day-to-day basis. Alejandro Villanueva had a tough time with JPP and the backup offensive lineman. Will they get another shot or will some starters return? Football, no drama. So I really think these last 2 weeks just put it in bold print that the drama comes from the losing, not the other way around, and that the Steelers are fine. None of this stuff that we've talked about the entire preseason, entire offseason, really, all the way up till now, doesn't matter. It doesn't play. The Steelers had the worst week of drama you can possibly have. They went on the road on Monday Night Football. They beat a red-hot team that played a pretty good game. They won. None of that stuff mattered. It doesn't matter. It's going to continue to not matter the whole rest of the season. What matters is the stuff that happens on the field, the X's and O's, the things like getting your defense picked apart by Pat Mahomes. That's what matters. And so that's what we're going to continue to focus on this show. But I just thought that really brought things into perspective for the way things happen and why. It was pretty clear to me that the drama came from the losing. This week, drama-free and a winnable game, I think, for the Steelers on Sunday night. They are favored by a field goal going into Baltimore. The Ravens are 2-1. They did beat a pretty tough Denver team at home. They lost at Cincinnati, beat Buffalo at home to open the season. But again, looking at the Ravens' offense, and I think we can agree also, there's nothing wrong with the Steelers' offense. Steelers' offense is scoring points in bunches. James Conner seems to have at least adequately, if not completely, replaced Le'Veon Bell. Juju Smith-Schuster, Vance McDonald, and Jesse James have emerged as significant options in the passing game, to the point that the Steelers have kind of I don't want to say moved away from, but they haven't needed to rely on Antonio Brown probably as much as he'd like them to. And that's fine. And I think Ben Roethlisberger did a good job this week, both publicly and privately, of talking up AB and saying, hey, we're going to need him. They're double teaming him. We're going to go to the other guys. We're going to make them pay for that, and then we're going to go back to him. That's what he needs. That's what AB needs to hear from his quarterback. Publicly, it's what he needs to hear privately. That's how everybody gets along. And those good feelings stay good feelings after a win. I thought Ben did a very good job of that this week. But so the offense is fine. It was always fine. It's probably always going to be fine. It's probably going to be one of the best offenses in the NFL this year. And the defense, man, this just does not look like the kind of offensive attack that is going to be able to take advantage of the Steelers' weaknesses on defense. It's mostly a rushing attack. They've got Flacco through 4 games has 6 touchdown passes. 4 of them are to a wide receiver. He's taken 7 sacks, thrown 2 interceptions. He's never been all that mobile. The Steelers got good pressure. I thought even though they needed to blitz a lot to get it, they got good pressure against Tampa Bay. It's a division game. It's a tough place to play. These are games that are kind of toss-ups, as you see by a 3-point line. But I just think this is the game stylistically that should be in the Steelers, right in the Steelers' wheelhouse. The Ravens are going to come out and try to run the ball. Back 20 years ago, when the Steelers' defense was conceived, that was the thing it was built to do, and it's still pretty good at that, even through all the changes and the packages and the downplay of the nose tackle and that kind of thing. It's still pretty good at stopping the run, and they have this sort of 3-headed monster thing with Alex Collins and Javorius Allen and Kenneth Dixon, and it just you read those names and there's some good players there, but this is not the kind of offense that should have anybody quivering and shaking. And the issue with the Steelers is those offenses. It is the offenses like a New England with Gronkowski, or Tampa with a Kelsey and a Hill. Kansas City with a Kelsey and a Hill. Those offenses that have those mismatches. I just don't see a lot of mismatches from the Ravens. I think the Ravens have a better defense, probably the best defense that the Steelers have played so far this season. But man, this Steelers offense is clicking. It really is. That last drive before the half when they scored the touchdown to go up by 20, and they're just doing whatever they want out there sometimes. And I don't think Tampa's secondary is anywhere near as good as Baltimore's, but the Steelers' offense is something special, even without Le'Veon Bell, and I think it'll continue to be, even against a better defense in Baltimore. I don't know about the line. I think these games are close. Typically, more often than not, it's kind of a who scores last thing, although I don't think it's a race to 40 kind of game either. I think it's probably a 27-24, 24-21 kind of game. But I do expect a Steeler win. I'll side with the line, although I'm not sure I'd pick a plus or a minus there. But I do think this is a game the Steelers can and should win. And the other thing, there's a lot of moaning and groaning about the divisional standings and the conference standings after the Steelers tied the Browns and then lost to the Chiefs. Well, a win against the Ravens, and they're right back in the thick of things in the AFC North. And sort of this is a chance for all those bad feelings from last week and the week before to be completely forgotten. The Steelers go into Baltimore on Sunday night and get a win. Team drama will be far in the backseat for quite some time. However, the Pitt Panthers have a much tougher road to hoe this week. The Panthers are going down to Orlando, Florida, to take on the number 13 team in the country in the Central Florida Knights. And the Central Florida offense is essentially the worst possible matchup for Pitt's defense. I've written at Pittsburgh Sports now an awful lot over the last few years about what I think about Pitt's base defense, their inability to get out of it, or unwillingness to get out of their base defense. Pitt plays a lot of base. They play a 4-3 base defense against 3 and 4 wide receiver sets on first and second down. I don't think it works very well against spread offenses that are very popular in college football right now, and I don't see a way for it to, really, not on a consistent basis. I don't think that the one sub package they use where they bring in a third safety is particularly effective either. Pitt needs, in my opinion, to have 3 or 4 cornerbacks on the field at times, and they don't ever. And I just think that sets them behind from the very beginning. This week, that is all going to be laid bare in a very obvious fashion because this offense of Central Florida's is for real. I mean, everybody made a big deal when they went undefeated last year and they claimed a national championship that some people didn't feel like they'd earned, but none of that matters because this offense against just about any defense in the country is going to go out there and kick butt. I've got a clip here that is almost hard to believe. I guess before we get to that, I want to bring up some superlatives for the Central Florida offense. There you have Mackenzie Milton. He's the dude, Heisman candidate at quarterback. 50 points per game this season, 30-plus points in 16 straight games, 587 yards per game. I'm at a +2 turnover margin per game, +2 turnovers. So they don't give the ball up either. They take it away. It's a fast team. They have a ton of team speed. This offense is unbelievable. Watch that. So we're going to start this clip, and this is from against Florida Atlantic last week. So not a Power 5 defense, but a talented defense with a lot of athletes on it. UCF has the ball at the 20-yard line, their own 20, and I'm going to let this roll. And we're gonna. It's 3rd and 10. They line up in 3 wide. They spread out FAU, which is a pretty good group of 5 defense. Isolate a linebacker on a wide receiver, which is something Pitt has trouble with all the time. And they get 15 yards. Pretty standard play. This happens to everybody. Take another look at it. Nice throw, nice catch. Oh, wait. UCF's back at the line again. Here's the snap, and here's a big play. And it happens that fast, they've gone 60 yards. They went from the 20 to the 20 in about 20 seconds. The ability to spread Pitt out, to play multiple receivers, the tempo that they play with it. You can't even watch the replay go all the way through before the next play is starting. This is just a terrifying matchup. It's about as bad of a matchup as Pitt could possibly have. But the tempo really makes it tough for Pat Narduzzi and his staff to come in this week and say, you know what, guys, look, we've seen the light, finally. That North Carolina game, it just exposed everything. We can't do that anymore. We've got to do something different. This can't be the week to be doing different. Central Florida's got another play called. They're up at the line. They're behind you like that. This can't be the week that different happens. Pitt is going to have to find a way to play their defense against this offense and somehow slow it down. I don't think they can stop it, but somehow slow it down. I think one of the ways they can do that is by doing what Pitt does absolutely the best, and that's running the football and just keeping the ball as long as they possibly can, because that's going to be their best defense. Their best defense is going to have the clock running while their offense is on the field and their defense is on the bench. It's also going to be 92 degrees and a bright, full, sunny day, 3:30 p.m. kickoff in Orlando, which UCF players are used to and not all of Pitt's are. Everything is lined up for this game to go terribly for the Panthers. They're a 13.5-point underdog. Wouldn't terribly surprise me if that number went over 2 touchdowns, although it did start at 14 and now has dropped down. But this is just a bad matchup for Pitt. I don't see a lot for Panthers fans to feel confident about heading into this one. Pitt does have the history of beating teams that maybe they shouldn't. But if you look at those games, you look at Miami, pro-style offense, Clemson, pro-style offense, Penn State 2 years ago, it is a spread offense, but it's nothing like this. I don't know what to really expect because, like I said, we haven't seen Pitt's best effort, I don't believe. If Pitt plays like they played last week, if Pitt plays like they played 2 weeks ago at Penn State, they're going to get slaughtered. If they play to their ability, I do think they have a chance to keep this game close, keep it competitive by running the ball, by eliminating mistakes, getting better special teams play. But this is going to be a tough matchup for the Panthers. It's a tough game. And, man, it doesn't get any easier from here. They've got Syracuse, which is just another one of these offenses that's 4-0 right now, feeling really good about themselves. They come into Heinz Field. Then they go to Notre Dame. Pitt is staring 4 straight losses in the face right now, and there isn't a gimme in there. There isn't a game they're going to be favored in there. They're going to have to find a way to find a win to keep this season from going off the rails before it really even gets going. Tough times for Pitt. That was a very winnable game last week, and it was a game, given the difficulty of their schedule this season, that they absolutely needed to win, and the fact that they lost it by shooting themselves their own foot has to be absolutely gutting for that team, for its fans. I know it is. I've talked to a lot of people the last week that are really disappointed. They're upset. They're starting to question Pitt's future under Pat Narduzzi in a way they never have before. There's a lot of not good out there in Pittland right now, but I do think it should be an interesting game because this Pitt team, it's really hard to know what to expect when a team has played so far below its talent level, if it will continue to or if it will find a way to put things together. Elsewhere, Friday, that's our Whitfield game of the week tonight is North Hills at Gateway. Big time players on that Gateway team. Derek Davis is a 2021 running back. He's going big time Division I. Courtney Jackson's going to Syracuse. He plays a little bit of offense and defense. Jeremiah Joseph's really underrated player going to Miami of Ohio. He's like a safety corner, does a lot of things, but man, Gateway, I'm a Penn Trafford grad. They beat the crap out of my boys there a couple weeks ago. Talented team. North Hills may or may not have Tyler Brennan, their all-everything quarterback and defensive player. So we've got that. North Hills and Gateway Friday night. Parker Hurley there for PSN. Saturday, 3:30, Pitt, Central Florida. I'll be down in Orlando. And then Sunday, 8:20, Steelers, Ravens. The Dukes are off this week, start conference play next week. Hey, that's all I've got for this week. It's I'm breaking things here in the studio. That's we'll leave that down there. That's all I've got for this week. Thanks for reading my stuff at Pittsburgh Sports Now. Thanks for watching this show. The reception has been so great to what we're doing here at Pittsburgh Sports Live, and we really do appreciate everyone that reads. I really want to get the comments going right down there at the bottom. Pittsburgh Sports Live YouTube page. Comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me how stupid I am. Tell me how smart I am. I actually like that one better. Tell me what you want me to talk about. And subscribe to the channel. That's very important. That helps us a ton. As for what we're trying to do here with this venture, it helps us grow. And that's what this thing's all about. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next week, I'm Alan Saunders for Pittsburgh Sports Live. This has been the Friday Football Show.